Hey guys, this is Andy from StarWars.com. Welcome back to Lucasfilm headquarters in the second half of Star Wars Rebels Season 1. We're kicking things off with a look at Path of the Jedi. This is Rebels Recon. After Ezra's dangerous connection with the dark side, Kanan prepares an essential trial for the young Padawan and himself.
One that could determine if you're meant to be a Jedi.
Inside a hidden Jedi Temple, both gain new insights thanks to a wise teacher.
Patience. Remember you nothing of your own training.
Together, Master and Apprentice move forward in their journeys, and Ezra completes an ancient rite of passage. The editorial team showed us their work process that goes into every episode of Star Wars Rebels. This is part one of a two-part series.
It's an editor's job to be the spokesperson for the audience, to look at the content of the episode and think, how would I perceive this as an audience member?
I really try to keep myself in the dark a little bit early on in the process, so that when it is time for me to do my job, I can see things that people have, that have read the script over and over and over again. They kind of glaze over things.
A lot of our episodes have a lot of space battles and fast cuts, visceral, emotional editing that really pulls you into the scene. But this episode, we wanted to kind of slow the pace down a little bit to focus more on Ezra and Kanan's journey together.
And then just making sure that story points throughout the entire episode link up, so that if this action happens in the early part of the show, that thought needs to be continued through the show. I kind of have to keep an eye out and make sure that we're constantly telling a clear story and just making sure everything makes sense. It's the biggest part of our job.
Chopper, New Year's was like 5 days ago.
This week, we met with casting creators to discuss that mystical energy field that binds the galaxy together. In Path of the Jedi, we learned that there are Jedi Temples scattered all across the galaxy. Was this a concept that was just created for Rebels, or is this something that has been tossed around before?
There aren't a lot of places where you find in Star Wars storytelling where you actually delve deeply into how many temples are out there, where are they in the galaxy.
We've seen a couple in Clone Wars, so we know that there are other temples scattered throughout the galaxy. The Jedi Order, being as old as it was, developed over time, and there would be these satellite institutions scattered outside of wherever the central Jedi Temple happened to be.
We had a long debate about the believability of one of these things being on the planet that Ezra's on. But at the end of the day, it's all kind of working together somehow in a bigger picture that we're not really revealing yet.
Is this a sort of trial that all Jedi students have to go through at some point?
There's a lot of debate about this. I think we tend to lean on the idea that a Jedi trial is customized to the Jedi in question.
The temple environment is responsive to who you are.
Right.
And that's a really critical element of this, just like the cave is responsive to Luke on Dagobah.
And the other kind of thing I found interesting that maybe doesn't jump out at people immediately is that he has no idea who Yoda is. When he hears that voice, right, he doesn't know who it is.
Ezra grows into a more adept Jedi because of the series of trials that he's put through. What are some trials that you've been put through in the making of the show?
I'm going through tons of stuff. It was the very first, I think it was Spark of Rebellion, the very first one where he can't open the holocron and he throws it against the wall and then he buries his head and he finally finds peace. And that's when this thing opens. And it has been a thing where I'm like, wait, I can relate to that. When I really calm down and not worried about things start to make sense.
Having Frank voicing Yoda was actually also a great thrill and a major part of the episode.
What was that like?
Yeah, I've worked now 10 years on Star Wars almost, and I have a lot of great memories. Definitely, of course, working with George is number one. To think that years later in my life that I would be working with Frank Oz on Yoda dialogue. You just kind of step back and you look and you're like, wow, I didn't see being here.
Over the break, you sent us tons of questions about the show, so we went to the story group's Pablo Hidalgo to get answers.
Eric Geller wants to know, are stormtroopers considered an elite corps of the Imperial military, or are they just regular soldiers?
Oh man, what's the best way to answer this that's fully respectful of the awesome 501st Legion? It's easy to put on paper that stormtroopers are the super elite, the best of the best, but then when it comes to having to put them on screen, they often fill roles where you can't have the best of the best. I mean, if you're going to exhibit a soldier in Star Wars, an Imperial soldier, you're not going to create some sort of generic military guy. You want to use stormtroopers. So that means you have to have a mix. And that's true in the movies. If you look, some of the stormtroopers are really good. The guys who raided the Tantive 4 at the beginning of A New Hope, those guys were really good. They really made short work of those Rebel defenders. Now, compare that to some of the guys who were chasing Han, Luke, and Leia around aboard the Death Star. So it's not an equal mix, which goes to the argument that these guys aren't clones, and because they're definitely anything but uniform.
Have a question about this week's episode? Tweet it to @StarWars with the hashtag Rebels Recon, and we'll choose a question to answer in our next show. Now, here's your sneak preview of Idiot's Array, which airs on January 19th.
Guess it's down to you and me. Except, it seems I'm all out of creds. So, I'll bet my droid.
Whoa, you can't bet Chopper. He's...
See, I can't lose. And you know we need the credits.
Right. Do it.
Thanks for watching Rebels Recon. Since we're off next week, Idiot's Array will air Monday, January 19th on Disney XD, and it will be available January 12th on WatchDisneyXD.com and the Watch Disney XD app. In the meantime, check out our episode guide for Path of the Jedi only on StarWars.com. Hey again, everybody. It's Andy from StarWars.com here at the Lucasfilm headquarters to talk to you about the Star Wars Rebels mid-season finale Gathering Forces. This is Rebels Recon.